Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hello and welcome. This is Murder Mystery Haunted History. If you are new here, we cover true crime, paranormal, and from time to time I do a little gaming. If any of that sounds interesting to you, please hit the subscribe button. It does help the channel get out there in the algorithm, help new people to find us. If you're a returning subscriber, you already know we love you and thank you for the support. On the side here next to me, we have Nettie from MelNetteLivingFreeZipCodeless. If you have not checked her channel out yet, it's in the description below. Go ahead and click that link and add her as your friend. You'll want her, I promise. All right, so we already have some people over here in the chat.
Yeah.
We had Hitch Up in Tow. It's been a minute. How was camping? I know you went on a little trip. So how was your trip?
Mm-hmm.
And we have Captain Jack who says, I'm stopping in to wish I could stay in tonight working on my truck in the snow. Oh no. Stay warm.
Yeah.
We have Thrifty Angela who has an incredible new channel that needs the watch hours. So Thrifty, why don't you go ahead and throw your link to that new channel in the chat so everybody can go over and check it out. Selexa Vlog, hello and welcome. Thank you for liking and supporting the stream. I appreciate it. All right. So tonight, Nettie scared me. Nettie scared me. She sent me the thumbnail picture and I about threw my phone. I was like, what is this?
I was trying for something creepy. I'm like, okay, we need a creepy story, haunting, something a little different. And I ran across this story. So yeah, that was a pretty creepy thumbnail, but it worked for it.
It definitely worked. It spooked me. Hitch Up and Toe said they are home and booking another trip. So they must have had a good time away from the kiddos.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do you say we hop into the story?
And I love the red light behind you. It looks so cool the way it's all around your area behind you. Oh, and your creepy doll to right behind them.
Well, I was actually trying to think. That's the tiny one. The big ones are sitting over here. Well, you can see this one that walks around, but I was trying to decide if I wanted to go ahead and put a backdrop back up. You know, my dead body criminal backdrop. I was trying to decide if I wanted to do that again for this show, but I don't know. I'm kind of figuring it all out still. But oh, we have Tommy Travels in here. He's driving. He's driving. Don't be texting and driving.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you about the background. Oh, never mind. I'll talk about that later. All right, let's add this into the stream and let's get going on the spooky stories.
Spooky, spooky.
My computer, my mouse just froze. Okay, what? It's not freezing. It just has a mind of its own at the moment. I think I need new batteries.
Oh, is it wireless?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And right now it's like just moving and then stopping, moving and then stopping. So I think I need new batteries.
Yeah.
I think that doll was Uncle Lisa.
Got shrunk.
Before we get started, did you all know? I just found this out yesterday. You know how when we're drying our dishes over here in the United States, we dry them on like a dish rack or we put a towel on the counter, right?
Yeah.
In Finland, they have a cabinet above their sink that has little slots like a dish drainer. And it drains all the water to their sink so they don't have to, like, it's a whole cabinet devoted to their clean dishes. Did you all know this? Am I the only one that didn't? Like, every house has it in Finland. They have a whole cabinet devoted to their dishes. I had to send Uncle Lisa a message when I seen this and was like, is this true? And he sent me a picture of his dish cabinet. I'm like, what?
Wow.
I need this in my home.
We have Roy and Becky Travels. Hello, you guys.
Hello, Roy and Becky. And then Thrifty Angela is going to have dinner. We always do this at her dinner time, but
Oh, yeah.
make sure you tell us what's for dinner and how yummy it was when you come back. All right, let's get started.
Okay.
Let me back this up. 10 true scary babysitting stories.
Dun, dun, dun.
And we're going to let Nettie take this first one.
Scared girl. I used to babysit for a family who lived a ways out of town. They had a beautiful house, a couple of great kids, and a really big yard. Beyond the yard were tons of trees. It was just very, very beautiful. And for the most part, it was a peaceful and very serene.
Dun, dun, dun. There were 2 kids, a boy and a girl. They were both sweet and well behaved. I had babysat for them for about 2 years when this happened. On the night it happened, nothing out of the ordinary happened at first. I came, the parents gave me money for their pizza, and then let me know when they expected to be back. It would be really late, near to 4 o'clock in the morning. Woo! What were these
Wow.
parents out doing?
Wild parents.
Party on!
But this wasn't unusual for them. They liked to go out to parties that went really late into the night. We had our pizza, watched some light TV, and I sent them to bed. It was around 11 when I heard some walking around upstairs. It was weird because those 2 kids had iron bladders. They never got up to use the bathroom. I heard some footsteps for a couple of moments, and then it was quiet again. Creepy.
Mm-hmm. I figured maybe the kids just had to get up for a moment or two. Then, about 10 minutes after the footsteps stopped, I heard the noise of someone walking again. This time it was coming down the steps. Oh, no. No. I noticed the young girl I was sitting for come into the room. She was rubbing her eyes and she ran up to me. She told me that some man had looked in her room from the hallway. Oh, no. No.
Where's the bat?
How do I get to the other one? And how do we? No, we all know I'm not going after the other one. We've heard the
No.
bear story. Left my kid with the bear. I'm leaving the kid I'm babysitting with the straight.
I'm gone.
Hey, Chrissy Mama.
Your hair flying in the wind.
See you later.
Man. I was only mildly concerned. I mean, as a babysitter, it was something that I would have to check out, but mainly I thought that this was simply a little girl scared of shadows or has had a bad dream. I checked out the entire house, and of course, there was no one in the house at all. However, even after I confirmed this, she was too scared to go back into her room and slept by herself.
Yeah, no. Oh, there's a strange man looking at you. We're out. See you later. Hope he doesn't take the other kid while I go to the neighbors.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and let her curl up next to me on the couch and go to bed. Why are you still in the house? Okay, never
I
mind.
know.
About 10 minutes after I had been done checking the house, I heard this loud and blood-curdling human scream coming from outside the house. The boy came running down the stairs shortly after. I had him sit on the couch with his sister while I went to check it out. What? This person is like brave.
Yeah. Jump in the car and go. I was scared as I went outside, but I had to make sure the kids were safe. I didn't think that I could call the police just because I heard one scream. I had the porch lights on and I walked around to the side of the porch. While I was staring out into the trees, I once again heard a similar scream as the last one. It was coming from out in the trees on the left side of the house. I could feel the hair standing on the back of my neck.
So is this somewhere I can send my kids to?
Not to babies, because she'll leave them.
That's what he wants. He wants somebody to leave his kids with the man that's screaming. Right, Becky. I'd be out of there with the biggest knife I could find. Right? I don't even know if I'd have time to find a knife. I'd
Yeah.
just be out. I don't get paid enough for this. See ya. I was debating whether or not I should check out further what was Why? Why were you debating this? Okay, sorry. I was debating whether or not I should check out further what was going on or go back in the house. Go back in the house. However, while I was thinking about it, I heard another scream coming from the same area. That was enough. I ran in the house and told the son to call the police and then his parents. I told him I was going to check all the rooms and make sure the house was secured. Oh,
Jeez. It started
no,
from upstairs.
I'm going to sit right here in our little bubble. We're going to hide in a closet until the police come, okay, kids? And you're going to either catch up with me or you're out.
Tripping over them while you're running.
Sorry, did I step on your fingers? I apologize.
I gave him a baseball bat and I grabbed a knife without letting the kids see it. The first room I checked was a parent's room and was horrified to find the window not only open, but the screen removed. I closed and locked the window before I heard a fourth scream. I did my best to secure the house. However, I didn't want to spend too much time away from the kids. Probably locked them in the house.
This is why you just find yourself a closet. You
Yeah.
take the kids, if they're fast enough, in that closet with you. Right, Becky said, while I had a knife, I'd check the house. Brave, braver than me.
Wow.
I got back to the kids. They had called both their parents and the police. Both were on their way. We curled up on the couch until they arrived. We didn't hear any more screams. The police didn't find anyone, but I know the house was broken into. It could have been just a prank to scare us. If it was, it worked. That is terrifying.
I would say
Like,
I'm retired. No more babysitting.
I don't think I can babysit for you anymore. You don't have a screen. Someone tried to come in your house. Whatever y'all are into, I'm out. See you later. I'd done been in the car with the kids and left. Yeah, I'm a little confused why she just sat on the. Maybe going out was scarier because of the thought of someone approaching you, but like just sitting on the couch like an open target. That's
Yeah. But, she might have been underage. Maybe she was dropped off. And you
yeah,
didn't say.
very, very true.
Mhm. A tree house.
That is a cool looking tree house.
I used to babysit for a family that had two boys, one 10 and one 12. They were a lot more easier to care for than you hear boys those age are. They played a lot outside in the backyard. They even had a tree house that they spent a lot of time in. Most of the time when I was over there babysitting, they spent was just playing in the tree house.
Roy and Becky said, sounds like what my cousin did to me while I was babysitting. He got punched in the face. There were even times when their parents would let them camp out in the treehouse. They had done it a few times when I had babysat for them, normally in the summer. In those instances, I only had to go and check on them every so often. This took place during a pretty hot summer. The kids were all excited about sleeping out in the treehouse. I used to do that in my treehouse. Ain't no way I'd allow my kids to do that in today's day and age, but
Yeah. I didn't have a tree house. I had a tent. Their mom had told me it would be all right I just had to go check on them every hour. I tended to always do this, including after they had gone to sleep. So I went back and forth several times. The boys were staying up late, reading comics, and just being boys. When I went out to check on them around 11 o'clock, they had finally fallen asleep. I turned off the light they had and then went back to the house.
My kids did camp out in tents. They did that quite often. We had tents in the backyard.
Yeah.
But I had a log cabin clubhouse, and it was because my dad worked for the school and they gave away these log cabin playhouses. And my
Oh,
dad
wow.
took it and put it back together, but he put it together in a tree for me in the backyard.
That's
So
awesome.
it was pretty cool. On the way back, though, I paused for just a moment. There was a light on in the second story of the house. That wasn't that unusual on its own, but as I was walking back towards the house, I saw the light turn off. This wasn't just the case of my eyes playing tricks on me either. I mean, yeah, the light flipped off immediately after I got to the bottom of the tree, but I knew that I had seen it on. Why is people always in the house?
Yeah. I wasn't sure what to do first, but I took out my cell phone and called 911. After that, I climbed back up into the treehouse. I turned on the light quickly. I woke up the boys. I didn't tell them what I had seen, but only that they would hear police sirens and not to worry about it. The police arrived and I watched them from the treehouse as they went in.
Yeah, see, smart. Go sit in the
Mhm.
treehouse. There's only one way in. If somebody's coming up to that treehouse, I'm peeing on their head. That'll stop them. My brother did that. Okay, never mind. That's a long story. I'll tell it later. An officer also came over to the treehouse and indicated to us that it was okay to come down from the tree. I watched again as the cops came out of the house with a man in cuffs. They had found him, hunkered down in the boys' room closet, holding a knife. I
Mm.
don't know if he was waiting for them. I don't know if he was waiting for me. I don't know if he was just there to rob the place, but I'm glad I saw that light switch off. Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
That crazy?
Can you imagine if she didn't see that light turn off? That would be
Yeah,
terrifying.
what if she was still facing the treehouse and didn't turn around and he had it off? That's
Yeah,
just crazy.
some angel was watching over her.
Yeah.
The treehouse story is my brother didn't want my other brother to come up, and he warned him several times and said, "If you come up this ladder, you're in trouble. You just don't do it." And my brother was like, "What you gonna do?" The other one. And so he kept climbing up the ladder, and then he'd get down, and he'd climb up, and he'd get down. And finally he got about halfway up the ladder, and my brother said, "I told you not to come up here." And he peed on him.
I hope his mouth was closed.
He's trying to get down the ladder while he's being peed on. My brothers were a mess.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Taught him a lesson.
Oh, yeah. Just weird,
That room looks so creepy.
doesn't it? I don't know if this story would scare anyone or if they just think it would be weird. I mean, definitely scared me when it happened. I was babysitting for a family who had a really beautiful but also very old mansion. The family room where the television was had an extremely beautiful fireplace as well. I often, in the winter, would sit in there by the fireplace and read a book. I really loved it, especially my family didn't have anything like that.
This night had been going by as normally as any other. The parents were going to be out all night, which was pretty normal for them. I put the kids to bed at 9 p.m., made sure there was some wood on the fire, and then I went back to reading my book. I had been reading for quite a while when I heard a noise. It sounded like a loud knocking noise, but it wasn't anyone knocking on the door. Dun, dun, dun.
I went and checked on all the kids, and they were asleep in their beds. So I went back to my book. But immediately upon entering the family room, I heard the noise again. I decided I would listen, and if I heard a few more times, see if I could tell where it was coming from. I did hear it again and then again. It was almost rhythmic, actually. I followed the sound, which seemed to be coming from the back of the house.
These people are brave, seeking it out.
Mhm.
I went through the servants' kitchen, which was a room that the family didn't really use anymore. They basically just used the door to go into the backyard. The noise was coming from outside in the side backyard, outside that kitchen. I went over to the door and felt around for the light switch. When I flipped on the light, I saw a figure standing far off in the side yard. The person had an axe in his hand. Terrifying.
He took the axe, held it up, and swung it down, making the noise that I heard. It looked like he was cutting a small log in half. Then he grabbed another log, put it up, and did the same thing. It didn't seem really oblivious. Did I say that right?
Oblivious, yes.
Okay, oblivious to the fact that I had turned the light on. In fact, I didn't notice any sort of reaction. I had no idea what to do.
Right, Becky. I'd pee all over myself. Hey, you open the door, there's somebody with an axe. No. Time to go lock the door and change pants. For a few moments, I considered going out the door and checking to see if he was a neighbor, a relative, or just checking to see if he was all right. I didn't think that he might be dangerous, really. I mean, he had an axe, and if he was wanting to break into the house or do anything, he could have. The man is standing out there with an axe and didn't even notice you turn on a light. Something's wrong. Something's very wrong.
I almost really opened the door, but caution stepped in and I decided not to. I simply slunk back into the other room, quickly picked up the phone, and called the police. I mean, at the very least, the man was trespassing. The story gets a bit stranger. The police came, and when they approached the man, he apparently swung at them with the axe. They were fortunately able to wrestle him to the ground without shooting him.
See, something wrong with that man. Hey,
I'll be right
Paradox.
I'll be right back where you read this story.
Okay. Becky said, oh, hell no. I'm assuming this is Becky. All right. The reason I found this fortunate was that the man was suffering from dementia. He lived only 5 houses down, and his son was taking care of him. He left the house while they were sleeping and thought he was living his teenage years again. So when he saw the axe and the chopping block, he just began cutting firewood. Oh, so he was like not okay in the head, obviously, and he was just out there cutting wood in the middle of the night. Got it. That would be so scary, but at the same time, like such a relief.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Hi, Louise.
I realized I didn't plug in my mic. I was on the computer, so hopefully you can hear me better.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could hear you both.
Okay.
Oh.
Is this the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, again, I don't know how scary this story is, but the man had dementia and he did take a swing at one of the cops with the axe. If I had gone out there like I had considered doing and he swung at me, I wouldn't have been able to defend myself. I would have been very injured or a whole lot worse.
Tip and toe is always making me laugh. What a relief. It's just a madman with an axe.
Yeah.
Man. Pizza delivery. It seems like the two biggest sources for scary stories on YouTube seem to be pizza delivery and babysitting. Well, mine sort of doubles those. I was babysitting for a family that I had been doing this for several years. They always paid very well and gave me extra money for pizza for dinner.
So, a couple of hours after the parents left, and once the kids had done all their homework, went ahead and ordered the pizza. When the pizza guy arrived, it was a different guy than I had ever seen before. He was a bit awkward at first, not really seeming to acknowledge I was there, just giving me a really creepy look.
Oh boy. Larice, thank you for sharing that out.
Yeah.
After a moment, he looked over at the car and told me that he had gotten the wrong pizza. So he went over to the car, grabbed another pizza, and came to deliver it. He gave me the pizza, I paid him, and he left. When I opened the pizza, I noticed that I actually had the wrong pizza. I assumed that the guy was just a new employee and had made a mistake. Mm-mm.
I called the pizza parlor, let them know, and they said they will send out a new pizza. About a half hour later, the kids were getting pretty hungry and frustrated, but finally the pizza came. It was the same pizza guy. He apologized and we exchanged pizzas. He was about to leave before I checked the pizza, but once again, it was the wrong pizza.
How many times can you pull that off without it looking completely obvious?
Yeah.
I called the guy back and he apologized, but now I was getting irritated. He went back, got another pizza, confirmed that it was the right pizza, and then he left. I was bugged by the guy, but was happy that I finally was able to get the kids fed. Halfway through eating the pizza, the doorbell rang. I checked on it and it was the pizza guy. He told me that I had overpaid for the pizza, which I know that I hadn't. He gave me $10 and I just took it and he left. So weird.
Yeah. He didn't come back for the rest of the night, which was great. I put the kids to bed and read until his parents came home. I got in my car to go home. About 2 hours later, there was a knock at the door. I was still awake because I was studying for a big test. When I answered it, it was the police.
Someone had broken into the house I was babysitting for, claiming he was my boyfriend. I had to refute the story and identify who it was. I don't think it comes as any surprise to anyone reading this that it was the pizza guy. He didn't know I was a babysitter and assumed I lived in the house. He tried to get into it late at night and got caught claiming I'm your daughter's boyfriend.
They're like, "What? We don't have a daughter."
Stalker.
I obviously went to jail, and I had no doubt that he kept screwing up on purpose in order to keep coming back to the house. I am sorry that the family I babysat for had to go through this, but I still watched over their children often.
Joy and Becky said stalker.
Sucker. At first, I thought he showed up at her house, you know?
Oh, yeah. Cornfield. See, cornfield stuff scares the crap out of me. Cornfield scary movies, cornfield anything scares me. I think they're beautiful during the day, but ain't no way I'm going near one at night.
And I love popcorn.
Mhm. When I was younger, I had to babysit for my younger cousins. I grew up in a very rural environment, although a lot of my relatives were in even more rural conditions. I was one of the older cousins, so I tended to be drafted to babysit for others all the time. And of course, it wasn't a job really, as I didn't really get paid, nor did I get anything special out of it. I was pretty much just expected to do it. H. Up and Toe said Jeepers Creepers and
Yeah.
Paradox Sauce right after them with Children of the Corn.
Mhm.
Exactly. Nothing good comes out of a cornfield at night.
On this occasion, I was babysitting for my second cousins. There were 4 younger kids and they lived on a farm. I actually liked this one though. They had a beautiful and very big farmhouse. The doors had skeleton keyholes in them, which I always just thought was pretty cool. There was a huge basement and a huge attic full of all sorts of interesting things.
Okay, this house sounds interesting, but also sounds like it's straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
The only time I didn't like babysitting there was when this story happened. My parents and my cousin's parents had gone out to the bars. Normally, this meant it was an all night job. We played some games and watched a little bit of television. They didn't get much TV out there, being as far out as they were. And Becky said, I lived surrounded by cornfields. Children of the Corn wasn't my friend at the time.
Right? The boys I was babysitting were 10 and 12, and they were definitely difficult to watch over. Also, being that they lived out in the country, they were used to being outside a lot. I didn't mind really and knew they wouldn't be in any danger. They may have gotten into trouble, but it would simply be of their own causing.
They were out after dark, and when they came back, I noticed that one of them didn't have his shoes on. I asked him where they were, and he said he left them outside by the shed. I told him to go get them, but he refused, claiming he was scared. When I asked him why, he said he was scared of the boy hanging out in the corn.
No!
Of nightmares. Stuff of nightmares.
He told me the boy was trying to scare him, saying it was going to take him out into the cornfield. If you understood these boys, or any young boys, I guess, boys like to scare other people. And this boy I knew was trying to scare me. I also knew I would get chewed out, so I went out with a flashlight to get the shoes.
I'd be taking his butt with me. You coming with me,
Yeah.
kid? We're going together. That way, if this is somebody trying to harm me, I can throw you at them.
Right. Trip over you when I run back to the house.
It wasn't really dark yet, but the sun had mostly gone down. There was a shed right on the edge of the cornfield, and I knew that was the one the boy was talking about. So I went out there and to look for the shoes. I could still see, but I knew my vision would be impaired. You know how it is when everything is dark blue instead of black. I went to the shed and was looking around for the shoes. Sorry about his luck. That's what I said. Sorry about your luck.
I got frustrated pretty quickly because I was unable to find them right away. While I was cursing, I shined the flashlight up a bit and saw something. It took a second for me to register it, but it was maybe a 13-year-old boy sitting behind the first row of corn. Well, he was more crouched down than sitting, his knees bent, and he was looking at me with a grin on his face. He was also holding the shoes.
See you later. You want
Come
the
and
shoes?
get these.
They're yours.
Come and get these shoes.
Come and get them. No, you can keep them. See you later. My aunt's going to have to buy some new ones. I fell back, but was able to collect myself and get up. I turned and ran as quick as I could back to the house. I went in and locked all the doors. It is odd looking back on this story because I sometimes don't think it is as scary as it was. But then I remember seeing that boy, shirtless, wearing cutoffs and crouched down, holding the pair of shoes in front of him and grinning at me. Yeah, no, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Tommy Travels says, I have walked out of the cornfield and onto the baseball diamond from the Field of Dreams movie. That is awesome.
Mhm.
That's awesome. And I'm sure you did that during the day. That's okay. Daytime's all right. Forget the night stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty scary. Why anyone would be hanging out in the corn like that, I have no idea. I didn't get in trouble for the shoes. I retrieved them in the morning. My cousin told his parents what happened, but they didn't believe him or me. They thought the story was too weird.
So she went back out there in the morning? No.
Yeah.
No.
So I'm done babysitting y'all.
Yeah, you kid, go get your own shoes. I'm not getting them. First job. When I was about 14, my mom decided it was time to start babysitting. Apparently, in her mind, it's just what teenage girls are supposed to do. So when she heard that a coworker needed a babysitter for date night with his wife, I found myself giving up a Friday evening for the promise of $20 and refrigerator privileges. Oh, I remember those days.
I'm eating everything.
Lots of pickles. They always stocked the pickles for me.
My mother drove me to the house at around 8. She particularly pushed me out of the car with a promise to pick me up at 11, and I was on my way to being financially independent. It was a very nice house in one of those subdivisions where all the houses look alike but still sell for hundreds of thousands.
The door was answered by a rather handsome, well-dressed gentleman who I assumed was my mother's coworker, Barry. Hi, you must be Jessica. You look just like your mother. He greeted me cheerfully, shaking my hand and leading me into the house.
Lydia is just putting Tommy down. You probably won't hear a peep from him all night, so just enjoy yourself. Try not to blow up the house. He smiled joyfully and showed me around their house while he waited for his wife. It was absolutely beautiful. They had more living rooms than my house had bedrooms.
He was just explaining how to bypass the parental controls on their humongous TV when his wife came into the room. She was beautifully dressed and looked no older than him, but there were lines around her eyes and she didn't meet my gaze. Tommy's down for the night, she said, more to the wall than to me. Barry handed me the remote and put an arm around his wife. This is getting a little weird.
Mm-hmm. Then we'll better be off if we want to make a reservation. He began to lead her to the door. I saw her glance towards the stairs, obviously nervous about leaving her son. I didn't really get it. My mother said that Tommy was about a year old, so this couldn't possibly have been her first time away from him. But I figured it was just a mom thing.
I reassured them that I knew how to handle the emergency situations and that I had both of their cell phone numbers, and Barry led his reluctant wife from the house. I have to admit, I was pretty happy to realize that the kid was going to be asleep, so I didn't really have to do anything. I went to the kitchen and put a frozen pizza in the oven. Isn't it amazing how back then when we were kids, we didn't shy away from like eating all that food out of the fridge, making themselves a pizza, creating some dirty dishes. But if you walked into somebody's house now and they were like, you can have whatever you want in the fridge, you probably wouldn't even eat anything because you're just being courteous. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like when you were a teenager, you'd eat it all up.
I'm like, where are the corn dogs? Do you got any hush puppies?
And these people only have red milk. Where's the blue milk?
Yeah. Oh, I microwaved a bag of popcorn to hold me over until I was ready, and then proceeded to the main living room again to see what was on TV. I was messing around with the surround sound system, and I realized that there was something odd about all the pictures in the room. None of them contained Tommy.
Weird. Tommy's not going to exist.
Yeah.
That's what I'm guessing. I mean, I could understand the lack of toys around. It was a large house and they probably had playrooms set up for the little guy, but the lack of pictures seemed odd. Just as I was noticing this, however, I managed to get the surround sound and a commercial came on the TV, nearly blowing my ears out.
Mm.
I grabbed the remote and mashed the buttons until I managed to silence it.
I was prepared to hear screams from Tommy as a noise explosion certainly would have woken him up, but I heard nothing. That was odd. There was no way I hadn't woke him up. Maybe I just couldn't hear him in this giant house. Well, I figured I'll better check on him to be sure. As I was walking up the large staircase, I realized they didn't. I realized they'd not bothered to tell me what room he was in.
It's a doll. I think Mama had lost her baby.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. I'm guessing. I haven't read this one.
It's Chucky. No.
I spotted a door with a blue dinosaur on it and figured that must be the one. Not wanting to wake him if he'd somehow slept through the noise, I slowly and quietly opened the door. The room was dark except for a very soft nightlight on the wall opposite the door. By the dim light, I was once again overwhelmed by the luxury of everything from the built-in shelves of toys to the sleigh-style convertible crib where the boy still slept.
Seeing the small form under the blankets, I was relieved. I watched him a moment by the dim light and was just about to leave when something made me hesitate. Something didn't seem right. I stepped closer to the crib. I just wanted to make sure he was okay. Then I go back downstairs to my popcorn and movie. Another step towards the crib, another. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, but I didn't know what.
Dun, dun, dun. As I reached the crib and stood over the sleeping form, it occurred to me he wasn't breathing. Surely it was a trick of the light. I reached my hand down to put it on his back and feel for movement, but as my hand got closer, I realized there was no heat. A wave of panic washed over me. Something was wrong. He was dead. What had happened? Biting my lip, I reached out and touched him. What I felt under the blanket was not the body of a child.
I ripped back the blanket and stared in horror at the eyes of a doll. It stiffened a scream as I stepped back. Confused and horrified, I quickly turned on the light and looked around the room. Was Tommy old enough to play practical jokes? Was he hiding somewhere in the room laughing? Even as I thought it, I knew it wasn't true. My eyes raked the room. Everything was set up perfectly.
She done lost her marbles and they're giving her a doll. There was no child playing in here. The photos that were missing from downstairs were all over this room. There were photos with Santa, family portraits, first steps, first spaghetti, all the usual first, but in each one there was no child. Just this doll, this creepy doll that lay in the crib staring at me. I ran from the room and back downstairs while I immediately called my mom. Her mom's got her babysitting a doll.
She was confused, but she came to get me. She searched the room to make sure I wasn't mistaken somehow and that there wasn't some child hiding. It didn't take long before she came down the stairs, took me right out to the car, and we just left.
And you just leave? I don't know. Would you leave? I'd probably stay and be like, by the way, can you explain?
I would eat my pizza.
I'd still stay and get paid to watch the doll. I don't know. I realized later that what had tipped me off that something was wrong was the lack of a smell. The warm, milky smell of a baby had been missing from that room. I was pretty sure no baby had ever lived there. My mom paid me the $20 herself and never sent me to babysit again. No, you gotta stay. Get your $20 and figure out why you're babysitting a doll. Maybe continue to babysit the doll. It's the easiest babysitting gig you're ever gonna get.
Game Boy. When I was a teenager, way back before the internet and cell phones, we were visiting some family, and when the adults decided to go out and got left watching my cousins. There were three of them, two girls, age 11 and 9, and the boy Joey, age 7. I was only 15 myself, but I generally got along well with the girls. Joey, though, he was a terror.
There's always one in the bunch. I don't know what it was that made him that way. Maybe his parents spoiled him for being the only boy. I'm not sure. I just know he was a terror beyond what I'd ever known a kid could be. He was the kind of child who would randomly run up and hit you or bite you. If you told him to do something, he'd not stomp his feet and pout. He'd just flat out ignore you. I love those kind of kids.
I've had many people say I should have busted his ass when he was in the care, but honestly, I can't hold him still long enough without getting bitten. So being put in charge of him on this occasion didn't sit well with me. I took the advice of the oldest sister and bribed him with a video game.
I had brought my Game Boy with me as it had been a long drive here, and while I didn't relish the idea of letting the little bastard play with it, I hoped it would keep him quiet and out of my hair, and for a while it did. I spent the evening watching TV and playing Barbies with the girls, and he sat quietly on the couch and destroyed monsters on my Game Boy. I couldn't have been more relieved. Hey, welcome back, Thrifty.
Well, it started getting late and the adults hadn't come home yet. I realized it was going to be my responsibility to put him to bed. Usually, with him being the youngest, I would have expected his bedtime to be earlier than the girls, but neither he nor they share anything as the night wore on. I admit I sort of hoped that he would get sleepy and doze off playing, and I could just put him to bed.
Yeah, kids like that don't do that. The girls began to get tired, and around 10, they were off to brush their teeth and put on their PJs. I guess it's getting on to bedtime, I hinted. No response. He just kept playing the game. Aren't you getting tired? You can play some more in the morning. It'll still be here. Joey glared up at me from the game. I'm playing now, he said, and immediately looked back at the screen. Oh, no. No, things are going to go terribly wrong here.
Because I didn't want him to waste the batteries, I had removed them prior to letting him play, and he was running it off the AC adapter now. Out of pure frustration, I grabbed the plug and pulled it from the wall. The electronic noise ceased immediately, and he just stared at the screen for a moment.
Oh, he's going to beat her with it or something. Something bad's coming. Then, without a word, he stood up, sat the Game Boy on the couch, and left the room. I heard the bathroom sink come on and relaxed. He'd gone to brush his teeth. Within 20 minutes, he and the girls were in bed, and I was free to do what I liked. I plugged the Game Boy back in and started up one of my favorite games. Something's coming.
Around 11:30, I heard a car pull into the driveway. It was about time they got home. Damn adults going out drinking and leaving me with these kids. Then, to my surprise, I heard a knock at the door. I paused my game and went to answer it. I peeked out the window first and saw a police officer. I went cold.
Oh, no. This kid done called the police? Thoughts began racing through my mind of what could have happened to my parents. Shaking, I opened the door. To my surprise, out of the back seat of the car, I saw another officer pull Joey. He was handcuffed, which I thought was odd for a kid. He was also covered in blood. He even had it in his mouth. What the hell? This kid went out and played monsters in real life. Oh my gosh.
The officer asked who I was, and I explained. He asked a lot of questions. I began piecing the story together. Joey hadn't gone to bed. He had gone down the street to a neighbor's house, a boy he knew who had a Game Boy system. He had knocked on the boy's window, and when the boy had opened the window, Joey had stabbed him with his pocket knife.
Oh my God. This kid is a serial killer. Lock him up now. The neighbor boy had screamed and roused his parents, who found Joey sitting on the floor playing Game Boy while their son lay bleeding. When they came near him, Joey had bitten them, and when the police came, he'd bitten them too. The police stayed and waited for the adults to get home, which wasn't much longer. My mom and I stayed with the girls while Joey's parents went to the police station. Oh
He's
my.
7 years old.
Uh-uh.
I always wonder why Joey went down the road to attack another kid. Why didn't he come after me? He knew I had a Game Boy. I was vulnerable lying there on the couch. There was no parents to come to rescue. Maybe it was because we were cousins, or maybe in his own twisted mind, he was being nice because I let him play the Game Boy in the first place.
Nah, she was just bigger than him. He went for a kid his own size. I don't see that side of the family much anymore. Last I heard, he was married and a great father to his children. I just hope his wife is never foolish enough to shut off a PlayStation when he's not ready to stop playing. What? No, he's a serial killer and they just ain't figured it out yet.
Yeah. A cow. This is a weird story, but I remember it like it happened yesterday, and it is totally true. I was raised out in the country. As a rule, since I was the oldest of the kids, I was always the babysitter. My mom was a single mother, had 5 kids, but went out drinking all of the time.
Oh my gosh. Terrible parenting. She was also a bit of a tramp. So she was always out overnight. Very often she didn't come back till sometime the following afternoon. On this night, I was watching the other kids when our dogs started barking. It wasn't unusual for them to bark a bit. They were dogs. But tonight they were really barking and seemed not to be in any mood to quit.
Now, there was a group of boys that lived down the road, and they were known to try and cause trouble. A lot of times, my mom had to go out there and threaten them to get out of the yard. When the dog barking was going on longer than usual, I got the idea the boys were out there tormenting the dogs or up to something.
I took my oldest brother and went out to confront the boys. Of course, I didn't see any of them out there, but there was some sort of weird light coming from the road. One of the dogs had gotten loose and was out there. So the two of us went out there to collect the dog and to see what was causing the light. Aliens.
Now, the dog that was out by the road was not barking. It was standing there looking. And as we got close to it, my brother kept trying to call for it to come over to us, but he wouldn't. As we got closer, I saw the strangest thing that I have ever seen in my life. It was a cow, and for some reason, it was glowing, and the dog was looking right at it.
That's weird. A cow that glows. Who let the dogs out? My brother ran up to the cow, obviously unafraid. He felt the cow, which just stood there. It wasn't a ghost because it was solid, but not knowing what the hell it was, I told him to grab the dog and bring it back to the house. It took me telling him a few times, but he eventually did what I told him to do.
We tethered the dog and went back inside. We didn't tell the younger kids because we thought it would be scary for them. Hell, it could have been as simple as those boys putting on some sort of glowing paint or something on the cow, but not knowing made it freaky to me.
Yeah, that is scary, but it probably was the kids like
Hmm.
painting, you know. Strange thing. It stared at me, empty eyes fitted in a distorted, misshapen head over a gaping black hole of a mouth. It had tucked its spindly body in the far corner of the living room ceiling. It was just beyond my field of view. I had been noticing something in my peripheral vision, but every time I would look, there would be nothing there.
I had just happened to look without turning my head. My sister's kids were asleep in my room for the night. She needed to attend some sales conference, so I was the default free babysitter. I was almost never in the living room this late. I wonder if I would have ever known. I was straining my eyes, but I couldn't look away.
Pentosa must be a nuclear power station nearby.
Yeah.
It started blanking at me, maybe blinking. It started blinking at me and did not seem to notice me looking until my head twitched ever so slightly. We locked gazes in the TV twilight of the room. Its eyes were large and dry and had no shine, as if they were endless. I blinked and it was gone. I try to forget, but I don't think I ever will. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
That is just creepy scary.
Yeah, there's something. Ugh, no.
Yeah. Dislike dog. Note: this story involves a dog and might be unpleasant for animal lovers.
I knew this guy named Tony in school. I never noticed anything weird about him. To tell you the truth, I mean, he seemed just like a normal kid. He was even a bit popular, played football in high school, and got decent grades. He was blonde, in good shape, and even relatively attractive.
The reason I mentioned that is I never noticed anything weird about him. Was that in stories with obsessed men or boys, the boys are always described as being creepy or strange or some sort. Tony was pretty obsessed with me, really. He asked me out quite a few times, and I always told him no.
They have those type of spiders, the Tripentosa. I think it took him a long time, but he finally got the point. I guess it was difficult for a guy like him to imagine that a girl wouldn't be interested in him. And honestly, it wasn't that creepy, just persistent and annoying. The last time I remember really talking to him was when I was talking to a few girls I hung out with in high school.
They wanted me to go to the football game that night. I let them know that I couldn't. I was babysitting for a family who was going to be at the game. Tony was near us talking with some friends, and he obviously overheard us. He said he was disappointed I wouldn't be there to see him play. I told him he should focus more on winning the game and less on whether if I would be there.
I went back to talking to my friends. They asked who I was sitting for, and I let them know. It was a job that I loved the kid. It was a job that I loved the kids, but I really hated their dog. I told them the dog gave me the creeps and it was hard to handle. The job would be perfect if not for the dog. The parents knew that the dog didn't like me much and vice versa, so they always put the dog outside when I was over. Oh no.
Well, that night was no different. I was at the house and I got the kids fed. We watched a little bit of television. I kept watching the clock, wishing that I could be at the game. The parents wouldn't be home after the game either, so I wouldn't be able to go out and celebrate what I was hoping would be a victory for us.
After the kids were put in bed and I knew the game was over, I decided to just do some homework while I watched television. It was relatively quiet. The dog who had been fed and had water began barking. I looked up at the clock and saw that it was nearly midnight.
Although I didn't look forward to doing it, I knew I have to go and check on the dog. I was sure it was disturbing the peace or something to have a dog barking like that all night. With a huff, book I put all my books to the side and decided to get up. Got up and was making my way over to the door when I heard the dog make the most god awful yelping noise.
It repeated this a few times. I couldn't explain to you how horrible the sound was. It was maybe the purest sound of agony I had heard in my life. I didn't know what to do, really. I was scared. I then went out to the back sliding glass door. I opened it up, and there was the dog, lying in its own blood on the back porch. I was certain the dog was dead.
I went into the kitchen and grabbed a knife for protection. I made sure all the doors were locked, and they were. I went to check on the children to make sure they were fine. They were. That's when I called both the parents and the police. The parents came and got there shortly after the police did. There were no signs of an attempted break in or anything.
The parents had no idea who might have wanted to kill their dog. I didn't think about it really until I talked to some of my friends. I had asked them what the game was like and what they had done afterward. We had won, of course, but my friends were a little puzzled that Tony hadn't been at the party. Oh boy.
It was a bit weird because he was a bit of a player, but he kept giving me these weird smiles and what I took to be knowing glances. When I finally got a chance to talk to him, he commented, "I bet that babysitting job's a lot more pleasant now."
Oh, hell no. Oh, no, no, no.
Mm-mm.
Now I know this wasn't proof that he did anything. Pretty much everyone knew the dog got killed, especially my circle of friends, but it was still just an incredibly creepy thing to say to me. Yeah, he killed the dog.
Mhm.
Did she report it to the police or anything, you think?
I would think she would have told the family, and the family might have reported it, you know?
Yeah, I would hope. That's
Yeah.
terrible. Oh, wow. Those were some really good stories and true stories, too.
True stories. The one that really got me, I was getting chills just when I started the paragraphs and that creepy thing in the corner. I'm like, she has to start it like that. She can't even tell me how many kids she's watching. It's just this things in the corner staring at me.
Yeah, that would be terrifying,
Yeah.
especially if you couldn't, like, if you didn't know if it was real or, like, were you really seeing it? Like, there's no way if it's a person,
Yeah.
I don't know. If it's a person, you can call the police on it, you know? But if it's not, it's paranormal. You can't do
Cornfield
anything about it.
too. That little boy in the cornfield.
Oh yeah, the little boy in the cornfield. Like cornfields are scary. I don't want to do cornfields. Forget
Mm,
that.
yeah.
So, well, thank you, Nettie, for putting together an amazing story, several of them. Um, And that's something new I'm starting on the channel. And this week I will have one coming out where it is a long form of several different stories being read. You don't have to watch it. You can just listen. Maybe if you like falling asleep to spooky stories, etc. That'll be coming out soon this week. So hope you all check that out. Don't forget to go check out Thrifty Angela's link.
Yep.
Go give Nettie some watch hours. She has her subscribers. She just needs watch hours. And we will see you guys next Sunday. Wishing you all much kindness and much love.
And we're sending love your way. Good
Bye
night.
all.